Welcome everyone to our Legendary Films channel. Today, we are bringing you a brand new Scott Adkins movie released in 2025. The title of this movie is Prisoner of War. So, without further ado, let's get into the film. First off, the story is set around events that took place in Japan during the World War II era. One day, a man named James Wright arrives at a very famous karate school in Japan to meet its grandmaster. However, the original master who founded the school has already passed away, and his son is now running the dojo as the headmaster. The moment the son sees James, he recognizes him. He mentions that before his father died, he spoke a lot about James, specifically about his exceptional martial arts skills and how he used to fight their soldiers in the past. However, harboring anger over a past incident, the son orders his students to use every martial arts technique he has taught them to attack James and throw him out. Every student in the class immediately stands up and attacks James, but not a single one of them can even lay a finger on him. As they try to surround and strike him, James uses his incredibly proficient martial arts skills to ruthlessly counterattack, bringing them down to the floor one by one. Watching this unfold, the headmaster's son realizes that his father's words were absolutely true. Defeating this man is unimaginable. He orders his students to stop the fight and asks James why he came looking for his father after all this time. That is when James begins to tell his story. James was actually a highly skilled pilot serving in the British military. As World War II raged on, James and his squadron were flying airplanes to drop bombs on Japanese military camps in the Philippines. Unexpectedly, they were met with heavy anti-aircraft fire from the Japanese forces, and James's plane took severe damage. His only option to survive was to parachute out of the falling aircraft. Knowing that the ground was swarming with Japanese soldiers, James took a parachute and jumped anyway to save his life. Just as expected, there was a massive presence of Japanese troops below. Two soldiers immediately spotted him and chased him with the intent to kill. James hid behind a tree and, using only a combat knife he had on him, fought and killed both soldiers. Unfortunately, one of the soldiers accidentally triggered a landmine before dying, and the explosion drew a large group of nearby Japanese troops. Heavily outnumbered, James was easily surrounded and captured. They didn't kill him on the spot. Instead, they took him deep into the jungle to a massive Japanese military camp. The commander of this camp was Lieutenant Colonel Ito, the very man James had gone looking for at the karate school in the present day. When the soldiers handed James over, Ito didn't bother interrogating him. He simply ordered two soldiers to take him into the jungle, kill him, and bury the body. As the two soldiers took James away and prepared to execute him with a sword, James sprang into action. Using his hidden knife, he killed the soldier holding the sword, snatched the blade, and quickly finished off the second soldier. Hoping to escape, James ran through the jungle and stumbled upon a crashed British helicopter, but there was nothing useful left inside. Hearing approaching footsteps and assuming it was the Japanese soldiers, James sprinted away to find a way out of the jungle. But before he could get far, he fell into a trap set by the Japanese army and was brought back to Lieutenant Colonel Ito. Having previously dismissed him, Ito now realized James's potential after seeing him kill two armed soldiers and escape. Ito confiscated James's knife and military dog tags, deciding that James could be useful for their entertainment fights. He ordered his men to lock James up with the other prisoners. In his cell, James met several other captured soldiers, including an American Marine, a Filipino soldier, and a fellow British soldier. He quickly became good friends with them. The next day, the guards took James and the other prisoners to the camp's fighting arena. To pass the time, the Japanese soldiers forced the prisoners to fight in deadly matches. The rule of these fights was simple. There were no rules. You fought until your opponent was dead. James and his fellow prisoners were forced to face a ruthless Japanese soldier who had already killed hundreds of men in this arena. The soldier fought brutally, easily killing three of the prisoners who fought alongside James. Seeing this, Colonel Ito ordered the fighter to kill James next, as Ito still held a grudge over James's earlier escape attempt. However, what happened next shocked everyone. As the deadly fighter moved to strike, James delivered a powerful kick that brought the man to the ground, followed by a lethal, high-level martial arts strike that killed the fighter instantly. Colonel Ito and the surrounding soldiers were stunned. The technique James used was a highly guarded secret known only to a very small circle of elite grandmasters in Japan. Ito realized there was something very special about James. Shortly after the fight, a guard brought James alone to the lieutenant colonel's quarters. There, James noticed a girl named Teresa working as a nurse. He immediately sensed that she too was a captive forced to serve them. Driven by curiosity, Ito asked James where he learned such deadly, secretive Japanese fighting styles and whether he had lived in Japan before. James refused to answer, simply stating that he would never discuss his master with anyone. Though furious, Ito didn't harm him then. He told James they would meet in the arena tomorrow and had him sent back to his cell, fully intending to put his best soldiers in the ring to ensure James's death. The next day, James was brought back to the arena. Just as Ito promised, a group of highly skilled Japanese soldiers was ready to fight him. While the guards cheered for their men, Ito quieted them down and started the match. They fought James one by one at first, but unable to defeat him, 3 of them attacked simultaneously. Just like the day before, none of them could even scratch James. Using devastating karate strikes, James killed all 3 of them right in front of Ito. During the commotion, James noticed some communication radios near the Japanese guards. Back in the cell, he discussed it with the others. They realized that if they could steal a radio, they could contact their allied base and call for a rescue. The next day, while out for labor, the prisoners staged a massive fake brawl to distract the guards. While the guards were focused on the fight, James quietly slipped away, stole a radio, and hid it in a secure spot. That same day, 2 other prisoners tried to escape but were caught by the camp guards. Ito summoned everyone, including James, and issued a stern warning against escaping. To set an example, he brutally beheaded the 2 captured prisoners in front of the entire camp. Despite the horrific warning, James did not change his mind. That night, while everyone slept, he snuck out of the cell, retrieved the stolen radio, and climbed a small hill near the camp to check for a signal. He found a signal, but, lacking the technical knowledge to operate the radio, couldn't send a message. Meanwhile, 2 guards came to inspect the cells. Thankfully, James had arranged his bedding to look like he was sleeping under the covers, avoiding suspicion. After returning, James told his cellmates he had found a location with a signal, but needed someone who knew how to operate the radio. Later, Ito once again called James to his tent and demanded to know where he learned to fight and if his parents were Japanese. James remained silent and instead mocked Ito. Enraged, Ito ordered 2 guards to tie James up outside and beat him continuously for an hour. The guards did as instructed, mercilessly beating him with a stick. However, when they untied his hands after an hour, James snatched the stick from them and beat both guards to death. Furious that James had killed his men yet again, Ito retaliated by shooting 2 other prisoners dead and ordering a guard to knock James unconscious. When James woke up about an hour later, he was in the camp's medical room. His wounds had been treated, and Teresa, the nurse, was there. Surprisingly, it was Ito who had ordered her to treat his wounds. Teresa mentioned that this was the first time Ito had ever beaten a prisoner and then ordered medical care for them. After James was returned to his cell, the other prisoners shared a rumor they had overheard from the guards. An American military attack on the camp was imminent. Not knowing exactly when the strike would happen, they urged James to execute their escape plan as soon as possible. That night, James and a prisoner who knew how to operate the radio snuck out to the hill. However, they were spotted by a Japanese soldier. James quickly neutralized and killed him, but a young, teenage soldier walked in on the scene. James grabbed the young soldier, held a knife to his throat, and threatened to kill him if he made a sound. Terrified by James's reputation, the young soldier stayed completely silent. Realizing the guards were doing their rounds, James and the radio operator had to abort the mission and quickly use a secret door to slip back into their cell. The next morning, the dead soldier's body was discovered. Colonel Ito gathered all the prisoners and directly interrogated them to find out who did it. No one spoke. Suspecting James, Ito ordered 2 guards to brutally beat James's friend in front of him, hoping it would force James to confess. James stayed silent, but his friend valiantly fought back against the guards and managed to overpower them. Ito then directly asked James if he was the one who killed the soldier. James replied, "Fight me and beat me, and then I'll tell you." Refusing to lower himself to fight a prisoner, Ito simply sent James back to his cell. The following night, James and the radio operator snuck out again. This time, they successfully reached the hill without any issues. They transmitted their coordinates and a rescue plea to a British military base. However, on their way back, a patrol caught them red-handed. The guards beat them until they were nearly unconscious and tied them up tightly so they couldn't move. The very next morning, the American forces finally launched their assault on the camp. While the Japanese soldiers were distracted fighting the Americans, Teresa and her friend rushed to James's holding area and freed him and the radio operator. James noticed that the guards had destroyed the radio they used the night before. Needing to send one final confirmation message, he asked Teresa to trick the Japanese soldiers in the communication room and steal another radio. Teresa and her friend went to the room, managed to kill the operator and brought back a new radio. They then freed the rest of the prisoners. Together, they fought their way through the camp, taking down Japanese soldiers one by one. The American bombing runs provided the perfect cover for their escape. Tragically, during the intense firefight, James's best friend was shot and killed. Before fleeing the camp, James went to the commander's quarters for one last confrontation with Ito. He had heard that Ito was a legendary martial arts master, though no one had ever seen him fight. Accepting the challenge, Ito handed James a sword and the two engaged in a fierce duel. Their skills were perfectly matched and the fight dragged on. Eventually, James found an opening to kill Ito, but chose not to. He dropped his weapon, spared Ito's life, and ran toward the jungle with another prisoner. As they fled, a Japanese soldier took aim at James's back, but Ito intervened and stopped the soldier from firing, returning the favor for James sparing his life. James, Teresa, and the surviving prisoners traveled a safe distance, sent a final signal to the British base, and were successfully evacuated by a rescue plane. The movie then flashes back to the present day. James tells Ito's son that he was never able to finish that fight with his father back then, and he came back to conclude it. Since Ito is no longer alive, the son steps up to fight in his place. But despite the son's immense talent, he cannot even lay a hand on our hero. After outclassing him for a while, James does exactly what he did years ago. He spares the son's life, turns around, and walks away. And that, friends, is how this movie, Prisoner of War, with its incredible story, comes to an end. We'll see you soon with another awesome movie recap. Have a great day, everyone.